So welcome back. I'm in conversation with Dr. Girish Kumar Sharma, former scientist and general manager at National Dairy Development Board, or NDDB is what it is famously known as. For starters, NDDB was created by the government of India to replicate the Amul model pan-India. Currently, he is the chief scientific officer here at Zarity Health. He works with our doctors and clinical product teams to improve our consultations and health programs. Today, we are continuing a discussion about milk, its nutritional facts and myths. If you haven't already watched our previous episode, we discuss, among many things, the journey of a milk packet from farm to table. We discuss about pasteurization of milk. Dr. Girish also spoke about Gir cow milk and how, or is it really better than other milk types that are available there. We also spoke about why Tetra Pak milk lasts longer at room temperature. And he shared an interesting story about Dr. Kurian, the father of White Revolution, and the introduction of Tetra Pak milk in India. Welcome, Dr. Girish. Let's continue our discussion about milk. Let me start off by asking you this question, that when I buy plastic milk packets, it separates in a few days compared to when I buy it from the milkman. Why is it so?
It is interesting observation. So there are certain enzymes in the milk when it is produced to give it some shelf life, for example, 2 hours or 3 hours. These enzymes ward off the infection initially. But if that was the case, that the fresh milk could last long, then what was the need to do pasteurization in the first place? Now, what is happening? To me, it looks like after pasteurization, as we discussed last time, the milk needs to be stored in cold, 4 degrees centigrade optimum. Now, if milk is not stored at 4 degrees, then bacteria, they will multiply. So, it appears that the pasteurized milk pouch that you are getting has not been stored during the transit from production and delivery to you. At the place of delivery, they have chilled it a little bit so that you get the chilled feeling. But during the process, transportation, storage, this and that, maybe it is compromised.
That's why it's separating faster than the fresh milk.
Another thing is that pasteurized milk or even fresh milk, you store it at cooler temperature, the bacterial multiplication will be lower. So I think at one end maybe your milkman is very good in the sense that he is trying to deliver the milk very quickly to you. This is all the game of bacteria. If you are collecting the milk in a clean manner, your hands are clean, the cow is clean, the vessel is clean, the water that you used and brought it immediately, then it will last long. Another thing, if you just look at the pasteurized milk pouch, there is always a use by date. After pasteurization, you get about 2 days, during which time the milk should be stored, number 1, at 4 degrees, and number 2, it should be consumed within 2 days. Is the risk. 4th day, there is a further risk. So because they say use within 2 days or use by date. So supposing today is the day you have to consume milk, that means the bacteria have already multiplied to a level, some more, and then this will go off.
Right.
If you have a choice, then take a pasteurized milk pouch which is having 1 day more as used before date.
Got it. So, but then is it safe post 2 days to make paneer out of the milk?
You can.
So, what is the optimum way to store milk at homes? Should you keep it in steel containers or in glass bottles?
I think good quality steel, stainless steel, or good quality glass. Both are same in a way. From a storage perspective, doesn't make much of a difference. Now, if your glass is not good quality, if it is leaching out chemicals, or the glass grains are shedding, then it is not good. But good quality glass and good quality stainless steel, both can be used. There are certain advantages. Stainless steel, you can take it from the fridge and then you can heat directly. But in glass, you have to pour it something if you want to heat it up. The second thing is very critical, is that these vessels, because they are going to be reused, they should be very thoroughly cleaned. Bottles, by having narrow mouth, have some disadvantage because you cannot put your hand and wash it, so you require brush.
I've also seen people when they buy milk packets, they're going out, the use by date is within 2 days. They'll put these packets in deep freeze, and then when they want to consume it, they pull it out from the deep freeze. Why does it not spoil like the milk in the normal freeze? And why do we not do it as a regular practice?
Number one, you can freeze milk. There will not be much nutritional loss. That's the downside is that there will be a change in the texture. It will taste even different. You can store it in at frozen condition. The real thing is if you are allowing it to gradually melt on the room temperature, probably that is best. Instead of trying to take it, put it into the boiling water or something. Because plastics, they leach out far more efficiently in high temperature than in the low temperature. So from that perspective, that is not safe. So if you were to store, given a choice, you store in a stainless steel vessel, pouch per se. So here the problem is not the freezing of milk, the problem is the plastic. And be ready that there would be minor changes in the texture. Now comes your second question, if I remember correctly. Dairies don't breathe. Okay? My first thing is, why should dairy do it? No, to freeze it is going to cost them far more. See, you just to maintain freezing all through, it is going to cost them quite a lot. And it doesn't finish there. Then you have to eat it up. Why do I waste energy? No, it doesn't make sense.
So the costs don't add up.
So for day-to-day operations, it doesn't. When it adds value, then they do freeze, but not milk. Say ice cream. They freeze it and store frozen and distribute frozen, and so that even at your table it is available frozen. So they maintain that chain.
Very right.
Because there the texture, taste, flavor, everything is towards that. Here, the milk is to be used as milk or as an ingredient of something. So its texture, and so the moment you get little bigger molecules in your taste, in your mouth, it will give you a little texture difference, which could be aggregation of fat because of cold temperature. So unless you whip it up and take it out and homogenize it, so there could be. But from the nutritional point of view, whether proteins are same, whether calcium is same, no, there is not much difference.
Interesting. So what you are saying is that if the use by date is very near and you have extra milk, put it in your deep freeze and let it sit there, and you can use it within a few days. But be ready that you will have to slowly warm the milk without putting it on flames, because there is plastic also there. And also be ready to lose some texture or taste to the milk that you have because of some facts that you highlighted, right? But it's completely okay. Now I want to come to this hot topic, that is A1 versus A2 milk. People want to go for A2 milk. Some people don't believe that there's a difference. So what do you think is better?
I'll leave you with the information, and then you be the judge. A1, A2, this is a protein. You know that milk contains many constituents, out of which one is protein. Okay. Now within protein, you have got two major categories of protein. One is known as casein, another is whey protein. Okay. Splitting here further, within casein, there are three types: beta and kappa. Within beta, there is polymorphism, or there is a variation. A1, A2 is the form of beta casein. So a milk which is A1 so-called milk or A2 milk, there is the difference of only beta casein. Other things remain same. Now this beta casein is a chain of amino acids. So at 67th position, there is a substitution. That means one amino acid is changed. A2, there is a proline amino acid. In A1, there is a histidine amino acid. Now, it may have this amino acid or that amino acid, doesn't make much of a difference. When you ingest it, and then in the cells, it gets broken, A1, and it produces a small peptide, 7 amino acid peptide, which is known as BCM7. So this PCM7 is only produced in A1 milk, not in A2 milk.
Okay.
Now, this small peptide is linked to all kinds of issues, so-called issues. Now, since A2 does not have it, so A2 is considered better. If you go to the history in about 1990 or something, people were researching as to whether there are different peptides and they may have positive or the negative role in the health. So the idea was, can we have little more of this peptide compared to that peptide and all that. While doing this, they came across this polymorphism in beta-casein. We know only A1, A2. There are two. But actually there are 12 variations of this beta-casein. Beta-casein itself, there is A1, there is A2, there is A3. Nobody talking about A3. Then you got B, C, D, E, F, G, H1, H2 and I. So they are all various forms of beta-casein. Now so when they were studying, they came to know about A1 and A2. These are two different forms of beta-casein. And then they started looking into the positive side, negative side and all this. And then they discovered that in those countries where there is more likelihood of A1, which largely is in US, Europe, New Zealand, Australia, and then they did some correlation study and they linked that there is more risk for chronic diseases where A1 is used. Countries where A1 is more, the diseases are. So this was such a significant finding that virtually everybody sat up. This is something too important to. So then, starting from business people, they saw some business opportunity. Researchers and everybody, because this A1 is linked with some kind of correlating studies with the disease. So what is there? Then they found BCM7, and then they did BCM7 experiments in experimental animals. So they inoculated that BCM7, gave injection, and then they saw the effect, and then they found, yes, it creates problem. So whether you give it to the nervous tissue, you give it to the brain, you give it to the peritoneal cavity and all that. So armed with this information, and because this was done in New Zealand, so two people came together. One was this researcher, he was entrepreneur. The area in New Zealand was Fonterra. So he had a big stake in Fonterra, but nonetheless he said, I'll partner with you and let us. So they formed a company. The name of the company was A2 Company. Okay. And then they took a lot of patents because they saw the opportunity. By the time that much noise is there everywhere, as if, A1 is too bad and A2 is going to save. And this is all largely in the Western world. So then they formed the company, they started distributing, then there were claims and counterclaims. The main dairy company, they said this is not a conclusive evidence, that it is only some kind of linkage study, correlation. This is not definitive proof. There could be other reasons as well. Because this person, he had gone to the New Zealand court and he says, this is the risk. Enforce, ask Fonterra to write on their milk that this can cause this disease, this can, all those kind of claims. So then finally a position was taken that okay, no such claim would be there because there is no evidence of that. But nonetheless, because of court drama and all, this has gained a lot of popularity. They got a lot of popularity. And then everybody started thinking that maybe there is some truth in it. The industrial lobby is not allowing it to work, but otherwise this fellow is telling correct. So he started forming farmers together, their union, and then collecting milk, and they started selling A2 milk. This is somewhere around 2000. Okay. So company was formed, he started selling milk, but there was no claim. And initially what they were saying, because the problem was with A1 milk, so they used to write on their packet, does not contain A1. Not that it is A2 milk. It does not contain A1. And then on some testing, they found that it contains A1 also.
Interesting. On what? You are talking about the A2 milk packets.
Yes.
So in A2 milk packet, they used to write that it does not contain A1.
Yes.
And
Because
not testing, they found A1.
then they were forced to withdraw that claim. So then they started writing A2 milk instead of writing does not contain A1. Because when you're saying A2, I'm not claiming that it is free from A1. It may have traces of A1. There are 50 animals, 49 are A2 and 1 is A1. Then if you pool the milk, then it will be having traces of A1. But by this time, lot of awareness about A1, A2 was started. With that, went to Australia, went to US, and then went to England as well. But they were there only for 6-7 years, then they came back, withdrew, and then in China. So these are the only 4 territories where their milk is being sold. Because what they have done, they have taken a lot of licenses. And that licenses were primarily on how do you test an animal that it will give A2 milk or A1 milk.
Interesting. So it's breed specific.
Yes, it is breed specific, but how do you say it is breed? By looking a person, can you tell that
Blood
so
type,
and so?
we can't.
Because phenotype or by this, you simply cannot make a judgment.
Right.
So there are errors, there will be errors. So he developed a way by which you can genotype the animal. And he patented all this. So there were a lot of patents. So that was the situation. But then some people continued and this company was taken over by others and all that. But coming back to this A1 and A2, when this controversy started, so Europe, in Europe, they said, let us do the thorough investigation about it. So there is an agency in Europe, EFSA, European Food Safety Agency. They did all the analysis. And after the analysis, they said there is no conclusive proof. They say the work which is done to show that it causes issue, there are 2 main body of studies. One is finding out on the basis of disease prevalence and likely availability of genotypes that A1 milk is more, even though disease is more there. This one, which is circumstantial. And number is that some experimental studies you are done, but you are done only in experimental animals. We have no evidence in human beings this happens. This cannot be taken as a proof that A1 milk has an issue. So that is what majority of the countries, while they allow it, because if somebody wants A2, you take it. But nowhere, whether it is India, whether it is Europe, whether it is US, that A1 milk is bad is nowhere written. Or nowhere, so there is no standard by which you say, okay, this is A2 milk. So the only way by which you can say this is A2 milk is, one, you should have done the genotyping of the animal to prove that A2 gene is there. A1 is not there. So A2 gene. Second thing is that the milk is not mixed with the milk or not handled in the same dairy where other milk is also being handled. Traceability becomes very important in all this game. So wherever they have tried to establish traceable chains, where by which on the milk bottle itself or milk packet itself, you will try to trace from which cow it would have come. You know, that is the thing which is written.
In India, when you find a brand saying that here is A2 milk, so what you're telling me is that so they follow that type of testing and there is no pooling. So is there a standard, is there a body which is verifying that this milk is an A2 milk and does not contain traces of A1?
So now let us try to understand Indian perspective. Other than European breed of cattle, cows, all other milk is A2 milk. All other. Buffalo milk, sheep, goat, camel, human milk. They are all A2 milk. Okay? So it is not that there is only A2 milk in A2 packet. A2 milk is there everywhere. Now if you look at the total milk produced in India, okay, out of which nearly 45% comes from buffaloes. Another 25 nearly from domestic or indigenous cattle. This put together becomes nearly 70%. So out of the milk available without doing anything, 70% is. So the only issue is about that 30% milk, approximate figures I'm telling you. which come from either exotic, that means pure European, or their crosses. Their crosses means Indian cattle and European cattle put together, and there is a half genes from them, half from them. They are also only 50% of that gene is there. So ultimately, the probability of you having every day in out of A1 milk is very remote. While it cannot be said that you are getting only A2 milk, but if you are taking a cup of milk, if you just take that, there is a probability that 70-80% of that is A2 milk in any case. So that is one part of it. The second part of it is that in India, nobody has this traceability chain. Nobody has it. And third is that there are no standards by which you can verify. Food Safety Standards Authority of India has not set any standards. Globally also, there is no standard. There might be certain specifications which are set out by A2 corporation or A2 milk company for their internal consumption, internal use as a company. But there is none which I know of. There is nothing on that count. You will find lot of articles in media. You will find lot of things, so-called experts are giving their opinions. So there will be a lot of opinionated views. But there will not be scientific facts which will prove that yes, it is. And even if that is the case, there will be one or two papers here and there, while 60-70 will say no. What has happened because of this? In our context, it has become A2 means desi. Desi means always good. This means A2, somebody says it is A2 milk, that means it has to be, it is definitely good. So this is the inordinate hype created. Just now it's discussed about A2 is a protein. So it could be there in anything of milk which has a protein. Paneer, you have cheese, it could be there. But if somebody was A2 ghee, this is butter, this is fat. A2 butter or A2 ghee is nearly 100% fat. There is no protein. So because of this psychology, people are trying to encash on A2. Even if there was some merits in A2, the prevailing system does not allow. You have only exclusive. This is quite possible if somebody was having 4 or 5 animals or even 100 animals of his own, all genotype, all known, producing and then selling. If somebody is in a marketplace and then collecting from this farm, collecting from that farm, collecting from that farm, and then pasteurizing it in a bigger way and then sampling and testing and then distributing, then more likely there will be some adulteration, pilferages, some goats, some buffaloes. So in all probability, my judgment is what you get A2 in India largely is for the market.
I'll also probably let the listeners decide which one is better for them. It's quite complicated, that system, that there's no verification method. There are 2 private companies debating about it, very less research about that. So then we have milk pouches, then we have Tetra Pak milk. But there is also milk powder in the market. So now if you look at the convenience, like, it becomes easier with every single step. And milk powder, I think, is the easiest. I don't need to store it in a very strict environment. I can carry it anywhere. So what are the other ways, and why use milk powder when you have normal milk or vice versa?
Every development, it caters to some need. Milk powder is one way in which you can store the milk solids longer period without having very strict storage requirement. Okay? Because it does not have much of water. So the bacteria, they will not. Milk powder can easily be stored up to 12 months, depending on the way it is being worked with. Another advantage is that it can be transported to distant places. Earlier, when it was not there, then you have to transfer the entire milk. We had milk trains, and then we had milk trucks carrying from one place to another, huge distance. So now what you're doing, you're paying the shipping charges of water, because nearly 85 to 87% of milk is water. Or when you are cooling it, you are cooling water. So what if I can take the milk solids, just transfer it to some other place and then make the milk out of it. Then distribute it locally. Very handy in emergencies, very handy for people who are on outdoor activities, hiking, this and that. So there is a use. But in our context, largely, this came into being because of an issue. So I'll tell you the story back. So just imagine yourself that you are in somewhere around 1950. And Dr. Kurian, whom we spoke about in the last episode also, he had come and joined Amul. He was facing constant problem that the dairy, which had all equipments, he was trying to figure out what do we do about all this. But he had very limited knowledge about all this. What he remembered about one of his colleagues, H.M. Dalaya, Harichand Dalaya. Now, in entire Operation Flood or the milk, he is a key player, H.M. Dalaya. Now, again, you go back to the story, the Dalaya family basically were from Mathura and they shifted to Karachi. Now, we are talking about undivided India at that time. And there they were doing milk business. H.M. Dalaya was very much interested in dairying. So then he went to Pune, he did agriculture engineering from there, and of his own money, he went to US and he did dairy technology, or probably dairy engineering, I'm not too sure. Now during that period of time, when he was in Michigan State University, Korean was also studying there in Michigan State, although in different discipline. He was in metallurgy. Both came to know each other. So Korean returned. He continued to be there, and then he did a business administration 2 years further. But when he returned, and then he found that India is divided, and his farm is taken away. It is in Karachi now. So he was contemplating going back, and then settling there in US. That was the time when Korean invited him to come over for a week, help him out with all this. So he came for a week and then he stayed forever till the time he retired. He was the brain, basically, technology person behind all the inventions or discoveries that we did. This was about that man. What used to happen is that in milk, there is no constant supply because milk is associated with calves being born, and to nurture them, the cow or the buffalo gives them. So as their pattern changes, the milk also changes the quantity and volume. So what usually we have flush seasons. That means the milk will be more than normal. And then there are lean seasons when there will not be milk supply. This happens in winter and in summer. Summer is lean, winter is flush. And sometimes the flush in buffalo dominant area could be as high as 2.5 times than the lean. How do you handle this? If you have a huge capacity, then for some 4 to 6 months it will be partially used, and if you have less, then you do not know what to do. This is one point. Second, how to enter to the market? You simply cannot go to the market and say that, oh, I got more milk, take more milk. 1 liter, you will take only half a liter. You will not take 1 liter because now milk is more. This effect in the market price is going up and down. If you refuse, the farmer will have no incentive what to do with my milk, it will go no sour. So with all this, the solution was to convert this into powder. Can we convert it to the powder? The technology for development or the production of powder was available. Okay? But everybody refused. All the scientists, whether it is considered opinion was, you went to New Zealand, you went to Holland, you asked FAO to find out, but everything is that no, from buffalo milk it cannot be produced. Because buffalo milk has higher or the bigger size fat globule, it has higher. It is not possible. But the Dalaya said, no, it is possible. Let us do it. So He took the challenge. He worked out a way by which buffalo milk can be converted into the powder. And we patented that technology for buffalo milk. And then it was such a great thing that for the plant, for the milk powder plant inauguration, Prime Minister of India came, Jawaharlal Nehru at that time. This milestone change, likewise, he was responsible for condensed milk from buffaloes, every single thing, because everybody said nobody worked with buffaloes. And so the viscosity is different, density is different, components are different. So you simply cannot use whatever is available for cow for buffalo. So he did all the tinkering and then made the cheese. So it was that belief that we can do it. And we were pushed because nobody was ready to help and we had this problem at home. So he came to the solution. So that is the story about how the milk powder came into. And that was the first. Nestle was here. Let it use it is not possible. So that is how milk powder came. The convenience of milk powder was that I can transfer from here to northeast, I can transfer it to anywhere. So that was the need for having milk powder to convert the flesh into a commodity which can be used in the lean, which can be when there are floods, when there are famine. How do you do that? You go to a small plant and produce and then supply. So it has it. But this is not the first choice. So because more processing means there would be some losses or other. It is loss or the major loss or whatever. But there will be losses. Why do you incur that loss? Nutritional loss, I'm talking. Okay. So it is better you come close to fresh milk. But as we discussed last time, there are issues with the fresh milk. As such, there is no fresh milk or word. What we call is raw milk in the industry. Either it is a raw milk or pasteurized. Actually. But to me, personally speaking, what should be the way, this is my personal opinion, is that we should have pasteurized milk distributed through bulk vending machines, not through pouches.
Put up in societies where, just like
Yes.
in the old days, you would go to the farmer and with your own vessel.
So, now in Delhi, it was there. I hope it is still there. You go there, take the token from the shop, which is by the side, and then you put the token and then you get the milk, and then this just two purposes. Number one is that you are sure that the supply is getting replenished now and then.
Right.
It is not that if somebody is storing the milk for last 2 days and then giving it to you. And then you come and then you heat it up and then it immediately curdles. That means it has been stored for that much time in a poor condition. Okay. Here, it is not number one. Number two, you are not wasting and using plastic because you are carrying your own vessel. Number three, it is forcing you to do a little bit of walking instead of somebody. So you are going out at least once a day, if not 2 times a day. Well, so that way, this is my personal choice. But that is quite possible. If I think that needs popularization.
Is milk powder similar to drinking an actual milk? You mentioned that there are some nutritional losses there, but why did this not pick up? Is that
No,
the reason?
I think it was more of availability. Earlier, milk was not available. Now there is a choice. Now you can go and get pasteurized pouch, or you can go and get Tetra Pak. This is available. This becomes their day-to-day choice. Now this powder, whether it is SMP, skim milk powder, or WMP, whole milk powder, they are used more by industry. Nearly all chocolate industry, where milk chocolate, this and that, or dairy, this sweet shops, where all the gulab jamun is made only from this powder. Nobody uses the khoa and all that. That everything comes from milk powder. So it has its own requirement. We should realize is that the milk is required to be stored. It should not be left kitchen top. If you are in a habit, use Tetra Pak.
What are these cafes using? Are they using milk powder or some different kind of a concentrate? Because they also need it to last longer, right?
They use primarily 2 things. One is what they use for those types of coffees which have lot of froth. Now, higher the froth, you require more fat. So, their first choice, full fat milk. With the milk powder, you don't expect it that way. cappuccino you require, espresso you don't require. Espresso decoction that you have, and then you have got some milk. In that your skim milk or skim without. That can be reconstituted and used. But largely, if you see, they will have Tetra Pak of full cream milk. They do use something which is known as dairy whitener. It's available at in flights and such. The name is dairy whitener, but largely it may not have much of dairy. It may have vegetable oils, this and that, and then converted into that way. So dairy whiteners, they are basically, but again, like they are for emergency use or for, so cafes largely use, and that too they will prefer full cream milk.
I'd like to wrap up the discussion. Thank you so much for giving us so many good stories to look up to. I think you shared some valuable insights there about milk. After listening to this, many people would know how to store their milk and not feel guilty about putting them in the deep freeze. Thank you for tuning in to Insights by Zarity Health. We hope you enjoyed today's talk and gained valuable insights. If you want to stay updated on our latest episode, make sure to subscribe on YouTube or follow us on Instagram, wherever you are watching this at. And when you need to, you can consult our doctors and clinical nutritionists through our website, zarity.care. And last but not the least, if you have questions that you think we should ask the experts over here, don't forget to put them in comments below. Thanks once again for tuning in.